It is recording.
Hi, I'm Meredith.
And I'm Alyssa.
And this is our first book club meeting for A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. This week we're going to discuss chapter 1, The Flowering of Human Consciousness. But first we're going to give a little bit of information about ourselves. Alyssa, would you like to do your introduction first?
No, you go first.
Okay. So I'm Meredith, and I would say the reason why I was kind of drawn to this book is in my own personal journey, I've been kind of trying to formulate uh, a step-by-step plan to kind of assist others as they're going through their spiritual journey, and the practice of mindfulness and being aware of the present moment seemed like a really important topic, and I also wanted a refresher on those things, because I think it's like a muscle, like you can always continually to strengthen your mindfulness practice. So that's why this book kind of called to me, and it's been a really good refresher so far. It has made me kind of more aware of the daily habits that I do, that I can kind of incorporate mindfulness in. And it was just interesting to read Eckhart's some of his descriptions of spiritual awakening and all of that. So that's my introduction. Alyssa?
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I have been introduced to this book by Meredith just about a month ago. So I consider myself as very new to spiritual, and I'm so grateful that Meredith introduced me to this book because I think I'm loving it. So far, that's how I feel about it. I'm only halfway through the book, but most of the things that Eckhart talk about in this book really makes sense to me. I do have a question for you, Meredith. Who actually, for me, you introduced me to this book, right? But for you, who actually that introduced you to this book? Did you, stumble upon it by accident, or is it from a friends?
No, I first heard about this book when it first initially came out, and Oprah had her big book club. It was like a book club selection, and I watched Oprah quite a bit back then. She's been pretty pivotal in my spiritual journey. So she is actually where I learned it from. I watched it on TV. They broke it down into lessons and stuff, and then I got the book, and a lot of it was really like a game changer. Yeah.
Great, wonderful. Do you want me to move to the next slide? Is it?
Yes, please. So, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I thought that this quote in the book was really beautiful, and it kind of captured an important part of the book, and also just the so many messages that we can get out of the basic concept of what he's talking about here. But the quote is, "The first recognition of beauty was one of the most significant events in the evolution of human consciousness. The feelings of joy and love are intrinsically connected to that recognition. Talks of change within life, within the flowering blossom." Is there more to that slide, or was that the end of it?
Yeah, this is the end of the paragraph.
Okay. Okay. Um, I thought that like I thought for one thing it's interesting that the plants themselves are evolving, like they didn't have to expand out and create this flower blossom, but then they evolved to do that, and it's kind of a delicate thing to do, but it's so beautiful. And that's kind of like what life is about, is like not just thriving in life. Like the plant could have just thrived, it could have kept on doing what it's doing, but it decided to like bloom and blossom and become beautiful. And I thought that was a very neat analogy for like human existence, kind of why we come here. It's not merely to just thrive, but to evolve and become fully who we are. And I think that being present of who we are through mindfulness and spiritually awakening to that is kind of what the book is talking about.
How do you, I mean, how do you relate this? Because in the book, Eckhart also said something about formless. When you reach the moment of consciousness, it's like it's no form anymore. How can you relate the flowering of blossom, the flowers, the beauty of flowers into a formless? Because when you label that as a flower, a blossoming flower, and then to something that has no form.
Um,
Do you remember that Eckhart said something about that in the book? Let me see if I can find the page. I think I remember he said something about that, but I forgot which page is that. Um, on page 13, it did say something about stillness, that when he talks about you do not try to be good, but you let the goodness in yourself emerge, right? And then I think at one point it will reach like there's no form, and that is the consciousness.
yeah. Yeah,
And
I think, oh, sorry.
no, and that's why I was trying to, when I read this paragraph, I was trying to relate that. So is it like a journey? Is this how he's looking at it, like as a journey from one stage to the next until you reach that level of consciousness?
I think so. And like, if what I'm understanding you say, kind of, you're talking about like the level of enlightenment, right? That they talk about, like
Yeah.
once you reach that level, it's like
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Like it has no form. That's what he said.
yeah, I think the basic premise of that is like, so you, for me, the way that I explain it is we all like have layers of onion. And when we're born into the world, it's like we're pure, you know? But then,
Mm-hmm.
like, as we continue on life, like conditioning and stuff happens, and that kind of like covers up who we are. And then, like, at some point in your life, you could go through a spiritual awakening where you want to realize that there's something more, and then that's when you start peeling back those layers to realize who you really are. I think once you reach the level of enlightenment, it's like you finally accept that you're this amazing spirit being, and that everyone has that within them, no matter what life form, you know, that spirit has incarnated as. Like we all have that spark within us. So we are all one energy, but like the physical form that presents might not be aware of that spirit being within, You know what I mean? So like, I think in that situation where, you know, he's talking about a level of oneness, at least that's how I would relate it, is like everyone has that spirit like within them.
Okay. If I ask if you to give some example, because I'm still learning, right? What would be the example of that? Or is it's more like you cannot even think about giving an example? It's more like you have to experience it. Is that what it is? Or
Are you talking about the spiritual awakening itself?
yeah.
For me, I would equate that as like that moment in life. Okay, so like from my own personal experience, I feel like I've had many glimpses of like awakening, like certain instances where I would fully get present in the moment and be like, whoa, I'm more than just this physical body. But then like he talks about in the book, there's a lot of things that bring you to the book, but that's like there's a lot of things that bring people to their spiritual awakening too. So for some people, it might be one big instance that causes the shift in consciousness. For other people, it's many little steps over time, and it's like a smaller awakening each day. Like each day that you make an intention to want to increase your level of consciousness, then does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just trying to relate right now. If I try to be present with this moment right now, when we're doing this recording, right? So should I not be thinking? It's more like a feeling? How do I make it? I'm aware of my present moment. Because at the same time, I'm trying to like think about what you just said, but how do you be present with someone else? Like, it's like use your ears to listen and digest what you just said, or what should my body be doing and what should my mind be doing at the same time? Or it's more like make it empty? I'm trying to figure this out, so I apologize if the question really doesn't make any sense, but that's...
I understand you. I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain that. For me, being present means involving more than just one of my senses. So if I can visually be like looking at someone and then connecting that, like listening to them, and then try to keep my brain semi-focused as far as like not thinking about lists that I need to make later or the things that I need to be doing later on. That's me being present, but I'm not able to do that like 24/7. It's a muscle, like, and I also have ADHD and, you know, in this human form. So, like, it's just, you know, like when you were a baby, you would walk a little bit and then you'd fall down and you'd get back up, and, you know, doing it as much as you can and then connecting the moments in between, I guess. But on a broader scale, I feel like the purpose of life is not to be hard on ourselves in the moments when we're not being mindful. It's about enjoying life as well, versus like scolding ourselves for you know, like maybe spacing off or or not being present. Like all that's okay. It's all part of it, you know. But there is power in being mindful in life, you know.
Okay.
Did you have thoughts on like what he when he mentioned talking about the ego and how he explained that as like the dysfunction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do I have thoughts on the ego versus dysfunction? Mm,
Or like that was his description of the ego, is like it's the dysfunctional part of the human
yeah. Well,
being.
I'm. I don't think I would right now. As of right now, I don't think I would make it equal between dysfunction and ego yet, because I feel that there's nothing wrong with having an ego if you recognize that it is an ego, and and I I know that, you know, like how to differentiate the ego, if you know, if things that you think that will make you happy but actually it's not going to make you happy. It might make you happy in the short while, but then in the later, ego will not make you satisfied with yourself. So to answer your question about what is my thought on that, I think maybe I'm not reaching that, you know, that level of conscious, be fully conscious yet. That's why I, you know, like I still want to have, you know, financial stable, which I think that is a form of ego, because money would be never, you know, enough. But at the same time, we would still want to have money to live. If not, we want, I mean, well, how would we pay for the rent, you know, for example? I mean, how would we, maybe we don't need to pay, I don't know. I'm still struggling within myself, like to let go of all the materials because it's form of ego, um, and then you know, and let go of all the possession because it's a form of ego. What I'm trying to do right now is, I think, to be mindful about all of that form of ego, and I can accept that it's not going to make me happy, because the happiness should come within myself. But to say that an ego is equal as dysfunction is a long stretch. Maybe, I don't know. What do you think? What is your thoughts on that?
Well, I can see how he's relating the ego as being the dysfunctional part of humanity, like dysfunctional implying the part that is not working out for us. I don't necessarily think that the entire human form or the perception that being a human being gives us is always dysfunctional. Like there's some inherently like really good aspects of humanity that aren't dysfunctional, but the part where we want to separate from each other and you know, kind of forget who we are and forget who other people are is probably the dysfunctional part that he may be talking about, like the part
Yeah,
that's not working, you know.
yeah, yeah. So, would you say that some ego are fine, some ego are not? I mean, some ego are dysfunction, like killing someone else, like saying that you the only person, I mean, only you right and the other person is wrong, which is a form of ego. Of course, that is, I mean, not right. But money I mean, I'm just going back to money, which is a form of ego right? I mean, but it's still, we would still need that for our life. Is it? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
money itself, at least my views on it, money itself is just an energy. Like, it's honestly what we use it for that brings out the dysfunctional part of our ego or not, in my opinion, because like what money really represents is abundance and well-being, and that's everything that our higher selves want us to be. Like, our higher selves don't want us to have lack or to be in poverty or be struggling. Our higher selves want us to succeed and to bloom like the flower. So like, there's nothing wrong with wanting prosperity. I think it's just kind of what, if it causes a person to be like, well, this makes me better than you, then that is dysfunctional.
right.
That's not
Mm-hmm.
helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Or if money is like, well, I'm going to use this money to try and control people, that's dysfunctional as well. But money itself is inherently not evil, or dysfunctional, I think.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. So maybe I didn't say it right, but it's like uh, once like if you think that having a lot of money will make you happy, definitely that is an ego, because having a lot of money doesn't necessarily will make you happy. I mean, in fact, the more you would want more. It's never enough. Um, so, uh, can we say that like be uh, like um, be conscious, like about all of these materials, uh, materialistic, that world, which is a form of ego. Just be conscious about the existing and pro and bad. That is a consciousness. That is awakening.
I'm not sure I follow. Can you?
Um,
Sorry.
no, how do I say this? Let's take another example that is, it has positive value, but it also can be negative value, like building your career, right? um, you want to be successful person, right? uh, how, like, what is the level, the stage in your career that uh, um, it's like, if you totally depends, if you think that having success in your career is going to make you happy, that's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't think that will happen to it. You will never satisfy yourself, because uh, ego will try to like say that is not enough. I mean, you would want more. You want, if even in fact a millionaire would still want to be a billionaire. I mean, it's never enough. But realizing that, being conscious that you realize that you would still want to be successful, but not depending on that as thing that will make you happy. I'm not sure if I
Yeah. Are you saying, is it ego related to want success in your career? Or
yes.
there's some, are you,
Mm-hmm.
are
I
you,
think I think that is what I understand from reading the book. No?
Well, I mean,
Am I understanding it wrong?
no, there's no right or wrong
There's no right.
understanding. It's all what
Well,
works for you.
according to Eckhart, according to Tolle, no, Mr. Tolle, am I wrong to think that if I want to become someone successful, I'm not going to get to that level of fully conscious?
I think any restrictions that you put on your own consciousness is
An ego?
is a barrier that you're putting on yourself. So like open that up to accepting a belief system that there's nothing inherently wrong with wanting success. You know, like you're not trying to say, you're not, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think it's twofold. Like it sounds like, it almost sounds like categorizing things as bad kind of a thing. And am I understanding you like saying ego is like bad, or like not wanting to do that, or is your purpose like trying to figure out things that will bring you to higher levels of consciousness?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out things that will bring me to the higher consciousness. Well, like before I read the book, I was always think that, like not always, most of the time I would think that, I want to be successful in life. I want to have a financial freedom. I want to, like have abundance of money. I want to be healthy. But when I start reading the book, I feel that is an ego to try to take, try to living my ego-ness that tries to overcome me, the spirit of me, overtake or to try to become a driver in my body, and try to tell me that those are the things that it will never get satisfied. I would never be satisfied with myself if I base my goal on that, materialistic things. That's how I understand it. So it's kind of like I'm switching from having this, someone that have like a big dreamer to someone that maybe I should limit myself, because I don't want to. I want to let the goodness in me emerge. That's what, the thing that.
So do you feel like your higher self, however you describe that as, do you feel like your higher self wants you to succeed as a human being in this life?
Yeah.
Or do you think that your higher self wants you to stay at the bottom of the totem pole and like...
Yes, my higher self. I feel that my higher self wants me to succeed in life. Yes, whatever that is. And most of want to be, happy and be free, be not depending on not on others, because that is another form of ego. So, but it kind of like contradict, like right now in my but you know me, I'm always overthink. So that is what you always said to me. I always overthink. Maybe I'm overthinking this concept of idea, or like it's not that hard to understand. But sometimes because I overthink, it make it look so hard. But I was just try to struggle within. I'm struggling within.
Very complex. Like there's so many different avenues, and our brains are so complex as it is. It's a lot to take in. When you said, I can't remember what it was that you said, but it made me think of Oh, when you were talking about that voice that says like, you can't succeed because then other people might think blah 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 blah, or that you might not feel fulfilled once you reach that level. Like I heard Oprah talking with Brene Brown, who's another fabulous person, but she was saying that like shame basically has two voices. It's like, who do you think you are, and then also you're not enough. So like our, or the ego, whatever you want to label this as, but like that part of our brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's always, it has the voice of, you're not good enough to do that successful thing, or it says um you know, like you're not good enough to do that thing, to kind of like keep us in the safe zone. And that's when our higher selves are, is like trying to encourage us to bloom like the flower and become everything that we really want in life, you know, pursuing those things that we want to go after, you know.
Okay. So so then I'm trying to, like I I feel that I always have that. I feel that the book is try to make me stop myself from blossom. It's like, because but then what you just said, really, um, I can connect with that, that we want to be like whatever on the screen, flowering, the the inner flowering or blossoming within you, right? But then okay, so how do I control my ego then? See, I'm still going back to the ego. I think this concept of ego is really it's hard for me to digest, because
Do you feel you need to control the ego?
yeah, to reach the level of fully higher self, of higher consciousness. Yeah. Or is that another form of ego? Because I was trying to control the ego, then it's become another ego. Because
So I keep referencing other people, but like these are like concepts that helped me kind of understand. So please let me know if this is not making sense. But I've heard the ego also related to as like a frightened child. Elizabeth Gilbert, who's a writer, she referenced the ego as like, you know, say you're driving a car on a road trip and then the child is like freaking out and scared. Like you would pull over and you'd get out of the car and you'd comfort the child, but you wouldn't let the child drive the car, right? You would, the child needs to be told that they're safe and they're staying in the back seat and they're buckled in, and you know, like you give them their blankie or whatever is going to calm them down. You get back in the car and you keep doing what you need to do and going where you need to go. Like the ego, that part of our brain that is all about fear, regardless of what it's about, like I'm afraid to be too successful, or I'm afraid that I'm not good enough, those voices come from the fear part of our brain. And it served a purpose back in the day when we had to run away from saber-toothed tigers and that kind of thing. But now that we're living now, we have the opportunity to be the driver in the car and allow the ego to be part of the human experience, because it is a valid part of the human experience. But we, as the higher selves, or the parent of the car, you know, driving the car, we have the ability to choose where we go. And I think that's where consciousness comes in, is like the awareness to be able to detach from that and still make a decision based not out of fear, but out of knowing what we're worth, you know, like what our higher selves would tell us what we're worth, you know.
Okay.
Does that make sense with the ego?
Good analogy. Right? You
What?
no.
No? Okay. How are we doing on time? We're at 7:40. Do you did you want to talk about ego more, or do you want to?
That will be more in chapter 2. That will be very interesting discussion. So I hope whoever that watching this can, you know, join us for the next chapter 2.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else that you want to talk about? Let's talk about spirituality and religion. See?
Okay. May I ask what your thoughts are on, because you're more connected to religion, I think, like, do you have a certain view? Did reading this book change your viewpoint on the term spirituality, or did you already kind of believe in spirituality before reading this book, or what are your?
Before, like, when I was like researching about this, I also watched a video about, you know, about in chapter 1, Eckhart doesn't really talk about it yet, but I think in one of his video, he talked about religion can be an open door or closed door, depending on how you see it. And to me, it is really an open door, because I can see that it is connected between what I believe and the spirituality that he's explaining in his book. So I think it's you know, it's up, it depends, you know, how each of us will take it. I mean, I agree that I'm more connected to you because I have a religion, and you don't have a religion. Am I right? Are you not a religious person? Would you say? Would you consider?
I don't normally categorize myself as a religious person, but I know a lot about religion, so I guess I define it differently, that there's information to be known about religion, but I do not practice.
Okay. So what are your thoughts about it? I mean, because you said that you have a lot of information about religions, and in his book, he did say that, you know, like, this is another thing that I want to talk to I want for us to discuss, is about labeling. You know, like, we shouldn't be labeling people, and it happened a lot in religion. That's why they decide you're wrong, because they start with label people. You know, they have this perceived idea about what is the truth, you know, and they don't realize that the truth is just a form of thoughts. You know, like God is just what, a man-made image. So I forgot where I was going to. So okay, so what is your thoughts on that, like, between spirituality and religion, and labeling people, like label people, like, I don't know. I have a separate question that I want to discuss also, but maybe if we have enough time, is about personality, labeling people on personality type. Is that
interesting?
Yeah, I know that would be very interesting. Is that, you know, contradict to this idea, or how? I mean, what is your take on that? But let's go with the spirituality and religion. In what are your thoughts of?
Okay, so I think that religion has a really great place in humanity, because it does seem like it helps some people reach a certain level of consciousness to their higher selves that maybe they wouldn't have without it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned, having an open mindset about other things, I think that's when religion becomes dysfunctional is when you get a bunch of folks together saying that their religion is it and everything else is the untruth.
Right.
That's when it becomes pretty toxic, because then you have people who are in charge kind of telling you what to think and believe, and that's stripping away people's individuality and their own ability to think things through. So that's why I have mixed feelings about religion. I do think that there's some benefit to it, and for certain humans, you know, it really does benefit them in one way or another to be able to have that structured belief of a higher self or higher being. You know, some people just need that structure. But then I also see like the other side of it where people can become brainwashed and also be taught that spirituality, or what I label spirituality, is like learning more about yourself, like we talked about earlier, peeling back the onion layers to really find out who you are. When I was raised in a certain religion that kind of taught that type of thinking was inherently bad, and that it was like satanic kind of a thing. Like it was like just really like you didn't explore those type of things. And I think that that's a really damaging viewpoint to cut people off from seeking information in other ways that would benefit them as a human being.
Right.
I don't know. Do you have additional thoughts that you'd like to share on how religion and spirituality work together, or any?
I'm trying to be cautious, not, you know, like when we want to reach that, I mean, we shouldn't be label people in any way possible, but so I don't like that, the idea of, you know, seeing that you the only, I mean, one you the only one who's right and the other people is wrong, everyone else is wrong. So that's uh for sure is, yeah, I don't, I'm trying to, you know, like you said, try to keep you know, like try to approach this with an open mind, and hopefully it will get reconciled when I'm reaching the, you know, my higher self, hopefully. I hope that's my goal. That's it. Is that my ego speaking? Can we talk a little bit about, you know, like I think in one of video when Oprah was talking about, as an example, how she's connect with like the garden, her garden at her house is like by not label. For example, if she's looking at the plants or flower, she's not labeled that, you know, like for whatever that is. It's more like be with it, be in that moment rather than try to think about that. And then that's why I was thinking about, so the idea of consciousness is try to get rid of, try to label people and try to label anything, but it's more like try to feel stuff, right? Is that right? Rather than
It sounds like the level that she's talking about is like enlightenment, when you see literally every life form is like you're one with it, and you shift your consciousness from a three-dimensional reality to, you know, a higher level of awareness. I'm certainly not at that point yet. I mean, there's moments where I can accept and feel a sense of connection with all things, but as far as like not being able to label a tree and just viewing it as some energy form without calling it a tree. I'm not
Formless. It's like no form. That's it. So I mean, so then it go back to, you know, like we did talk a little bit about, you know, like our personality, that I am INTJ and you ENSP, right?
INFP.
INSP. So how what is your thoughts of that? I mean, do you think that conflict with what we try to do or try to reach the spiritual by labeling people, personality type of people, with this, or is it going to help you understand yourself more and try, because I think that those personality type tests is the goal of those tests is to help you, you know who you are and try to find the strength and weaknesses, and, you know, work on your weaknesses and, you know, strengthen your strength. But how is that feed into this awakening?
It feels like, at least in my life, the personality typing and labeling myself and also other beings with, you know, personality typing, or really delving into psychology itself and figuring out personalities and personality disorders and all that kind of business, like that, to me feels like a very important step in raising our consciousness, because like you said, it gives tools to human beings to be able to self-reflect and improve in ways that they want to. You know, I tend to feel like we have the ability to like incarnate into a very specific type of human life form based on the mission that we choose to try and accomplish during our life. So like having that variety of personalities and all of us being unique in our own human life form way is part of the game, you know? Like, I don't think it is necessary to like strip away who we are as human beings, our own unique characteristics and all of that kind of thing. That's just part of it. Like part of loving life, like being able to experience life as this higher consciousness. Like we get to like be here and experience all the unique ways that life presents itself, you know?
Mm-hmm. Part of loving yourself as a human being, a feeling of joy and love, and intrinsically connected to that recognition that is on the slide right now. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what you,
yeah
that's where you're going. I'm glad that you said that, because, you know, like at first when I thought about it, I thought, oh, then maybe it's not okay to, you know, have those personality type, because we are labeling people, you know, like we label people on a certain, like kind of like group people, but by the way you said that, it makes more sense, because, you know, like it's not, I mean, why we try to find the negative things if we can find a positive thing out of it? I mean, if it's going to improve yourself, I mean, and be better, be more conscious about who you are, then I think it's a good thing, right? I'm not so 100% sure, but I think I think I'm going to the right direction.
I agree with you. Yeah.
It's
just like one of the steps and on the staircase, I think, right?
Yes. So I think we're going to talk a little bit about exercise for this week. Can you see? Yeah, I think you can see the screen. I just try to move the image so that you can see that better. Go ahead.
Didn't know if you, okay. So like each week we're going to talk about an applicable exercise that folks can do every week. And this week's exercise is to choose like one daily activity that you can bring your full awareness to. Alyssa talked about washing, like bringing awareness when you're washing your hands earlier. I know sometimes I've done it like with washing dishes. I just make it a thing where like I'm not listening to any music, I'm not multitasking, I'm just going to focus on doing this. But yeah, and the hope of doing this is like kind of making it more of a routine. The more we practice this, the stronger our awareness muscle will be. So
what kind of thing, just to make sure that I will be doing it? I mean, I understand you said there's nothing, no right, no wrong, but I still want to do it, like to make sure that I'm fully aware of all my sense. So should I be incorporating everything, like my feeling, my hearing, my uh I have to open my eyes while doing this, right? If for example, if I'm in a, like looking at the flowers, sometimes when we meditate, we try to close our eyes, just because when we close our eyes, we have our ear will be, have more. We try to strengthen the hearing. That's why we close the eyes, and or strengthen the feeling. But then in this exercise, are we supposed to use all senses? um, or should we try, with different approach, like uh, one time, try to focus on one sense, and then the next time focus on the other sense? Or what is the best way of doing this exercise?
that's a great idea. Like I listen, I think people should play around with it and see what works for you. To if the end result is feeling present and in the moment with whatever you're doing, then that's like the end result. Like for me, I know that breathing is like a really, really, really big part of me being mindful, more than any of the other things that I might do, because breathing regulates our brains right away. So that just makes it a lot easier. So like taking really deep breaths in and maybe holding it for 2 seconds. I know you can Google all kinds of breathing exercises, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like breathing in through your nose for 2 seconds, holding it for 2 seconds, then blowing out. Play around with it.
Okay, no, that sounds good. I mean, this is a very good, very great discussion. So
Yeah.
uh, so the next, oops, if I can go more. Okay, so our next meeting is on September 17th at 7 to 8 p.m. If you are interested to join us, you can, there is an email on the screen, and there will be an email also down on the description that you can email Meredith, and let us know if you're interested to join us. And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes.
You should say that.
Don't forget to subscribe.
All right. Thank you.
Yay, this is fun. Bye.
Bye.